The JSE is marginally in the red this afternoon, while the rand is stronger against major currencies following a soft start earlier in the week. Globally and here at home, investors are mulling the impact higher inflation will have on interest rates. Petri Redelinghuys is the founder of Herenya Capital, and he joins us now for the latest market moves. A very good afternoon to you. So what's been moving local and global markets as the JSE has been in the red for most of the week?
Good afternoon. I think it's a bit of a tough market really at the moment. I think our market is very much being driven by, mostly offshore factors, I would imagine. There's a lot of fear around exactly what's going to happen with this load shedding situation. There's a little bit of sort of contingency planning. We saw also that the U.S. consulate, for example, put out a warning to its citizens in South Africa to prepare for grid collapse and all that kind of stuff. So that, I think, is weighing on sentiment somewhat. And then you pair that with global CPI data that came out, obviously our own CPI data that came out, this week. And inflation seems to be running a bit hotter than what most people were anticipating, that it would be. It seemed as though inflation might have topped out. And now we're back in a situation where inflation is, increasing once more. So this whole narrative of, well, we might have seen the end of rate hikes. We might see a pause here. We might even see in the second half some cuts in sort of rates in the U.S., for example. That thesis is now sort of being challenged because the CPI data is running consistently hot. So that is, I think, spooking markets a little bit. And we've seen that, the U.S. market, for example, which is the granddaddy for us really, has not really made much progress this week either. It's kind of stuck below a significant level. And our market, admittedly has really pushed very, very hard on the back of higher commodity prices. Gold prices, platinum prices have gone, really very strongly over the last couple of weeks. But that momentum seems to be petering out a bit now, and the locals are starting to drag the market down. We've seen this theme the whole week that the locals, like the banks and the retailers, have been under quite a bit of pressure, while precious metals in particular have been doing really well. So it seems as though that theme might unwind a bit. If gold kind of dips below $2,000 an ounce, we might see a little bit of a bit of a pullback. And I think that sort of macro fear around what's happening with inflation and what this means for rate hikes might weigh on international markets as well, which again will put further pressure on us.
Okay, so what's happening with the rand? It's firmer against the US dollar, but we saw something happening on Saturday with it touching 19 rand to the US dollar.
Yeah, I looked for that. And I think, I don't want to be that guy, but I want to kind of call out MoneyWeb and say, check your data, guys. The platforms and the data that I look at, it did not touch, 19 over the weekend. Obviously, internationally, forex markets are also closed. So the way that I see it is it kind of, we topped out at 1830 on Monday, and we ended the day at, what is this level? 1806 on Friday. So that printed the 19 that we are seeing on some websites, I think, is a data error. I wouldn't take that too seriously, to be honest.
Okay. Clicks has released some positive financial results for the period covering the past 6 months. Give us the highlights.
So, I think that they are on a good track. Most of the things, they're winning a little bit of market share here and there. They've got new stores opening. Same store sales is slightly higher. There was a big sort of rollout that they did that impacted margin. They did a SAP implementation, which is, great for efficiencies going forward, but that did have a bit of a margin a bit of a revenue impact on them because there was some lost sales that they couldn't do. Most of the market was expecting the diluted adjusted headline earnings per share, that's a mouthful, to be up somewhere around 12%. Some of the more conservative estimates was around 10.3%, and the actual number came in a bit lower. I think that was slightly over 10%. Let me just quickly have a look. Adjusted HEPS was 10.2%. So the way that I see that is a bit of a disappointing result, even though, the underlying story being told is one of growth and progress. The market was expecting a bit more. So we do see the share trading down a little bit, not massively, but just over 1% down on the day. I think the market's a little disappointed, or 1.5% essentially. So the market a bit disappointed, I think, by that headline earnings per share number not being quite as high as that anticipated to be.
Steinhoff International has released the trading update for Pepco for the second financial quarter, which ended in March. Pepco recently opened its 100th store in Italy, no?
Yeah, so actually some good news, right? Pepco is doing really well. Their Poundland brand that they are, sort of rolling out very aggressively in Europe is doing really well. They've had a number of really good metrics. So, for example, like-for-like revenues was up something like 11% in the first half, 8.5% in the second quarter. Like-for-like revenue growth that's for the sort of the whole group. For Pepco in particular, it was 15% like-for-like growth. On a one-year basis, 10% or just over almost 11% on the second quarter, and Poundland Group also almost 5% on a first half basis and 5.7% on the second quarter basis. So they're doing, I think, really well. I think what's happening is that these are brands, I guess, or stores that do target sort of the more budget sensitive consumer, and they're seeing remarkable sales growth. So I think that the high inflation environment and the sort of more challenging economic conditions for the average consumer is actually playing into their hands. They've added something like 166 new stores throughout Europe, of which you mentioned they've opened their 100th store in Italy, and they're also planning to do an expansion in the second half of this year into Portugal, Bosnia, and Herzegovina. I don't know how to say that country's name. I didn't even know it existed until today, to be honest with you.
You learn something new every day, like birds doing television interviews.
I'm terribly sorry about that.
Don't be. It's good to see something different. Thank you very much, Petri Redelinghuys, founder of Herenya Capital.